get into the definition of what is self-identity. Yes, so self-identity is like you see there, the definition of it. There is theory, like I keep saying, theory and practice together will make it complete. So an individual's social identity indicates who they are in terms of the groups to which they belong. So I'm sure you must be like sort of a part of certain groups, and and you identify yourself into the social identity or people even identify you or sort of characterize you, saying this person is part of that group, so this person may be like this. So there's sort of a judgment made on the groups that you join. So an individual's social identity indicates who they are in terms of the groups to which they belong. So a lot of times, people decide that the person is this or that depending upon the kind of groups you join. So that's why, I'm sure you also may be very, very careful in which group you should join or not, right? I mean, you must be deciding. Suppose someone asks you to join a particular group, you must be thinking, okay, if I join this group, it's good. What will people think of me? What will be my status? I mean, do I have, or it could be a group which has a very high status, and then you're still thinking, okay, do I have the capability of joining this high status group? There's so many thoughts that are going on, and there is also research to say that social identity groups are usually defined by some like physical, social, and mental characteristics of individuals. So you join a particular group, deciding the physical, social, and mental characteristics of individuals, and a lot of people judge you based on a group that you join. This is very, very, very sort of quite aligned to self-reliance, because voicing your opinion when you're talking about, because when you join a particular group, is how are you going to position yourself. For example, if you've taken a decision to join a particular group, right? And they actually say that if you want, this is, of course, I've recently joined a very, very high performing group, okay? And this is, I would always hear people say that, hey, for you to be a millionaire, you should be with a group of millionaires. For you to be a rich person, you should be like them. You should have the energies of them. And I used to always wonder, where do I go and join such groups? Okay. And I don't know, universe has shown me the way. And I've actually joined such a group, which is a very, very high performing group. And the energies are different, it's very different. So many ideas. So one is, how do you identify? So what you need to understand is an individual's social identity indicates who they are in terms of the groups to which they belong, and social identity groups are usually defined by some physical, mental, and sort of social characteristics of individuals. Physical, mental, and social characteristics of individuals, and you actually evaluate whether in the conscious or subconscious before you're joining a particular group. Okay. Having said this, there is also a theory around social identity, or it's called the social identity theory. Okay, so this theory is all about becoming part of different groups and how membership to these groups helps construct our identities. I used to be part of Business Network International. After having taken a break, doing freelancing on my own, doing training and coaching. I used to do pro bono coaching. I used to do training corporates earlier, before I actually registered my own company. And I felt the need of networking, because after a break, you don't know where people are. I felt my peers are either gone up the ladder, or I really didn't know where they were. My bosses were in some companies, and after a gap, so I really felt the need of joining a business. Since the name of the group was Business Network International, I joined it. Now, after joining the group, I realized there are a lot of things to it. It is an internationally known organization. Locally, each sort of local body has its own flavor. And what I was looking for was met to a certain degree. But there is a lot of effort one needs to make in sort of how do I put it, in sort of getting to the right people, the right kind of I guess what do you say, it has to click, to get the right kind of people for you. And there's a lot of effort one needs to make, and a consistent kind of effort on a weekly basis, for you to get to the right kind of individual. And it's like any other sort of organization, there's politics, all of that is there, everything that you need to handle. So it depends on what you want and what is it that you're really looking at. And especially when you're on your own, it is important to build those contacts. So they suggested that people have an inbuilt tendency to categorize themselves into one or more in groups. So you would have your own in groups, and you would join that depending upon the characteristics of the group and your own characteristics. People actually identify you not with your individual characteristics, but with the groups that you join. And this is how people judge. Like when you join a particular group, it's not about you, but it's about the group characteristics, rather than, or what is the group known for, rather than what are you known for as an individual. So building a part of their identity on the basis of membership of that group, and enforcing boundaries with other groups. Like, so for example, in BNI, you have to follow a lot of rules and regulations. And while there were many such forums, you start like sort of comparing this particular group with other groups, and see, pros and cons. And you, after a point of time, there's also a lot of emotional connection that you start developing within the group, if you really identify with its characteristics, right? So why social identity? It's extremely important, right? Because we are all social animals. We are all social animals. In fact, this is the test that I do, which is also a part of my one-to-one coaching process, which is an intervention, which helps in many ways. Okay, how do you handle yourself? How do you handle your teams? How do you handle your bosses? How do you even handle your partners? For example, compatibility. And here, why social identity? And this is just what it's giving is like sort of a gist of it, and it's very beautifully linking to the fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation of behavior tests that I do. So social identity allows people to be a part of groups and gain a sense of belonging in their social world, because you are not an individual in an island, right? Somewhere in an island, you are part of a social world, and we are actually social animals. I mean, if you go back to history, the way we were, right? From hunters to what we are today, we really not like alone. We always have those social identities, isn't it? So social identification is important because it influences how people see themselves and how they interact with others. And this is what comes in very beautifully in FIRO, from three dimensions called inclusion, control, and affection. How do you include yourself? What are your control parameters? What is your affection parameters? And how much of it is expressed? How much of it is wanted? And so it becomes very, very beautifully, you can maneuver yourself, whether you're in an organization or whether outside, like, with people within your own family and things like that. So social identification is important because it helps you deal with yourself, and also what people, how they interact with others, how you interact with others. Finally, it's on to you. First of all, you need to understand your own self, for you to be able to interact with others, because generally we think that we need to understand others to interact with them. Before that, we need to understand our own self, so that we can maneuver ourselves to interact with others, right? So how do you see them, how people see themselves and how they interact with others? Very, very important. That is why social identity is important. These identities play an important role in shaping self-image, extremely important. Because if you and that's another test that I do in level 2, in how to deal with social situations, right, where it talks about status, certainty, that's also there. So SCARF, scarf test, right? So in that, if you get, that is another result that's actually not a psychometric test. It is more about brain science, using brain science that has been determined, where it'll help you to define your one of the characteristics in that how to deal with social situations is where are you in the group? You start ranking yourself. Am I up, there, or am I somewhere in the middle, or am I like really bottom of the group? And this is something that unconsciously the brain does. The brain science, knowledge of it. It's the brain does this very naturally. That's the way it behaves. Immediately, sort of determining the status of yourself in a group. Where are you? Am I number one? Am I number zero? Am I whatever? Right. So this actually helps shaping your self-image, and therefore there are ways of dealing with status, for example. And if there are people with different status, desirability. With certain people may have high, maybe high on that, low on that, moderate on that, but depending on that, you basically also start shaping your self image. Sorry. So that's why social identity becomes extremely important, because it is linked to self-image. And if this leads to low self-image, it will lead to low self-esteem, which will lead to low self-acceptance, low self-identity, low self-confidence, right? So it's all sort of linked so strongly. And we spoke about self-respect and self-image being also extremely important, because in self-image you have the physical aspects of it also that comes into play, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And for example, let me give you another example. In BNI, there was a dressing norm. There was, attendance. There was so many things that we had to follow to be a part of the group, and the behavior actually changes, and you start adapting yourself to the way the group is and the way the group behaves, and you start behaving the same way, because it is a group of business people who are trying to make business presentations. So there is a lot of seriousness in that group while you're building relationships. There is formality, and there is also informal relationships that you're building in the site, right? So why social identity? So very, because it helps shaping your self-image. Now, what are the three elements of social identity theory? And there are three key cognitive components in this. That's what you need to remember because as a person in an official situation, you are actually in a group. You are in a social setup. You are never alone. Even in your house, you're in a group. You're in a. It may be three, it may be four, it may just be the two of you, but you identify yourself, whether it is a family is also a group, whether it is a complex, whether it is some other membership, or it is an organization which is larger. There has to be certain things that you need to identify with, and therefore sort of maneuver yourself. Okay, so the social categorization, social identification, and social comparison, these are the three major aspects that we need to look into in the elements of social identity theory. Okay, so the studies on this are demonstrating that group membership was so powerful. In fact, if you're, and that's what is your assignment today, if you're not a member of any group, it's great for you to get into becoming a member of groups, to see and learn about what is it is doing to you. Okay, it's not about anyone else, but what is it's doing to you. What are the kind of things it is unraveling? What is it unfolding in terms of your own personality, right? So the studies demonstrated that group membership was so powerful that simply classifying people into groups is enough to make people think of themselves in terms of that group membership. I'm telling you right now, the group that I'm in, which is a part of a high performing group, there are certain norms, and each of us has to follow it, and there's such a positive sort of push that is there. So suppose on a particular day I'm not doing anything, I look at it and so I need to complete it today. So that can be the level of positivity that a group can create, because many times doing everything by yourself can become very, very tough. It's not impossible. It's possible. You can do everything by yourself. Journey may be longer, So it's always good to be part of sort of some likely groups, which you feel, and it comes over a period of time, or you pay to get there, where people who all paid, paid, speak the same language, understand what you're saying, and typically also would be of the same kind of mentality for you to be able to talk it out if whenever it's required. And that's why, there is the whole thing of accountability partners, there is the whole thing of building a community which is of the same kind of a resonance, and you can get back to any of them whom you sort of in the long run develop a relationship. And it need not be one, it can be more than one whom you start developing relationships with the group, because you know that they're speaking the same language. Okay, so let's look into the elements. The first element is social categorization. And what is this? It may seem very, very theoretical. That's okay. I mean, just try to, you don't have to get sunk into that. But it's the process by which we organize individuals into social groups in order to understand our social world. So you're categorizing them, people, and you categorize yourself into various groups by because that's how you're understanding your social world. Okay, so you may decide that, okay, I don't want to go to a particular group because that's not your social world. At the same time, you're deciding to become a member of a particular group because that seems to be more of a social world that you want to get into. So you are choosing. So this is enabling us to define people, including ourselves, on the basis of the groups to which we belong. So we are actually making those conscious decisions of identity, of social identity. So we tend to define people based on their social categories more often than their individual characteristics. So categorization is characteristics of the group rather than the individual. And over a period of time, the characteristics of the group will unfold. You will know, for example, in my community, I have certain values and ethics that I'm bringing in together. That becomes the characteristics of the group. And that will also help you understand that this is the group I would like to be. I like to and promote it sort of within myself and for others. Slowly, people with sort of that kind of a value or ethic will join the same community. So it is the group's characteristics that becomes important. So that is where the categorization happens. Social categories more often than their individual characteristics. Sometimes there may be certain characteristics at an individual level that you may not be doing, which suddenly starts appearing when you are part of a community or a group, right? So it becomes very important, and it helps in the final stage of implementation of behavior of becoming social, self-reliant. So second element of social identity is social identification, which is the process of identifying as a group member. So when you become a part of a group member, for example, there is a example here. It defines, suppose there is a person who is an environmentalist and you join the group of environmentalists. Suddenly you start doing things like them. You start saving water, you start not using plastics, you start having whatever different ways of the green ways. So being a member of the group makes you be like that, like recycle whenever possible, march in rallies for climate change awareness. Suddenly you start doing those things because you're identifying very strongly with that group, and you start doing those things. So socially identifying with the group leads individuals to behave in the way that they believe members of the group should behave. So people become emotionally invested in their group membership. So what is happening is that their self-esteem is impacted by the status of their groups. So in case by you have joined a group which is not helping you, there could be the lopsided thing of this is, there could be that you start feeling low on self-esteem because you're not able to identify with the characteristics of the group, and it is impacting the status, your status. So you're no more the status one, or you're not even 2 or 3 or whatever, and you start questioning yourself, doubting yourself. Okay, am I even someone who should identify myself with this group, or should I leave? And you have those kind of thoughts, and then you start questioning your own inner balance. You start questioning your own ability, saying, hey, maybe this is not the group that I should be in, and I'm not fit for this group. I've not done this, I've not done that. So you need to be quickly be able to identify the characteristics of the group for you to join a particular group. Okay, so otherwise it can hit your self-esteem, and it can impact that and your status, because it's very natural for the brain to start, as I said, to have to start numbering where are you in that group. That's a natural procedure that is there. So then how do you, so these are all sort of awareness sort of levels which make you decide, how, on how you identify with a social setup group, right? The last one is social comparison. So when there is social identity, what you start doing is compare. And this we did when we were in schools, right? We were in clubs, we were in houses, and we started competing with each other. There was one house better than the other house, and there was healthy competition. And sometimes it would lead to fights, saying, hey, I did this better, you didn't give me those points, and things like that. So comparison is very, very normal. It will exist. It will exist, especially if you join groups. But if you take that in a positive way, like, for example, if a move, so also this is an example that you can read here. What this example basically says is, if you are joining a particular group and you start comparing yourself with some other group which is better than this group, one is the status of yourself goes down. Two is you don't feel very right in this particular group, and you may, though you're okay in the beginning, if you start comparing yourself with an inappropriate group, like it is written in an example, if a movie star is there in a particular group and he starts comparing himself or herself with a classically trained Shakespearean actor, they two, it's not apple to apple comparison. So when you don't do apple to apple comparison, and then you start comparing to a different group which is not like your group, then again there are issues of self-esteem. There are issues of self-image, because you're saying, oh, I'm part of this group, but I don't. It's nice, but probably that Shakespearean classically trained Shakespearean actor group is better. And so what I'm saying is, it is very, very natural to compare, and groups, when you join, there will be comparison. So it's a process by which people compare their group with other groups in terms of prestige and social understanding. So that's the reason why it's important for you to choose also as to which group you join. And accordingly, you also compare yourself to apple to apple, so that you also start analyzing that the group that you have joined is appropriate for these reasons, and that group which you're comparing is not really what this group does, right? And so you don't lose your inner balance in any way accordingly. So the comparison must be pertinent to the situation, otherwise it will lead to lower self esteem, lower self-image. So in order to maintain self-esteem, one must perceive his or her in-group as having a higher social standing. It's important because, see, when you join, for example, I joined BNI, there are a lot of, every group has its positives and negatives. If I start feeling very negative about the group that I have joined, I will not be able to contribute to the group in any way. When you're in it, you be it, right? And you contribute, you see how much you can give, how much of it is helping you, and you can always decide where do you want to go next, or do you want to continue. So the maintenance of positive social identity is very important. So there will be some people who come and asking me, hey, you've joined BNI, I heard it's not so great, I mean, there's so many rules, there's so many regulations, how do I tackle that question? I would say, yes, rules and regulations are important. If I'm a serious business woman wanting business connections, it's important to have attendance. It's important to be in a particular attire. It's important to have those presentations for us to basically relate with each other, know what each person does in a large group that is joining, right? And as opposed to saying, hey, yeah, attendance is bad, there's too many rules, and yeah, I mean, you have to dress in a particular way. So you need to be you need to perceive yourself, the group that you join. So in some sense, whatever decision that you have taken for whichever group or membership that you take or join, if you don't perceive that that decision that you've taken is a good one, and you start getting involved, and so no group is perfect, right? You start getting involved in its own way, you will start voicing your opinion beautifully in the group too. Otherwise, you will take a back step and say, oh, this is not the place I need to be. Probably it's that group, probably it's the other group, and you'll never decide ever which group you need to be, because every group you will doubt, and you will not be able to make that status that is required, or that social standing that is required. When I was in BNI, I was totally in it, and I was doing whatever that was required, that was for it, right? So maintenance of positive social identity. So because people characterize me with not my characteristics, but the group that I have joined. So what is the kind of image that I project about the group that I have joined? I have taken the decision of joining it. So maintenance of positive social identity is up to me, right? So there are three things, and it's like a little long here, and if you can read it while I'm talking about it. But maintenance of positive social identity for yourself is extremely important, for what, whether you are in organizations. And there are so many beautiful groups in the organizations. Like, for example, there are these women groups, there are LGBT communities, there are so many other diversity and inclusion. There will be groups, there will be environmental groups, there will be go green kind of groups, like, right, that you can join all of them and maintain positive social identity. So there may be people in the organization say, why have you joined an LGBT group? I mean, is it something they can relate to? I would definitely say that yes, I have nothing to do with what they are, but I want to contribute to the vision of diversity and inclusion, right? So how you basically are in inner side of yourself to maintain the positive social life. So the individual mobility, the social creativity, and the social competition, these are three things you need to remember to maintain maintenance of social identity for yourself. Okay, so when an individual does not view her group favorably, she can attempt to leave the current group and join one with a higher social standing. That's mobility, right? Social creativity is in-group members can enhance social standing. You can be a part of the group and start giving creative sort of suggestions for you to enhance the current group instead of complaining about the group that you actually joined. And then over a period of time, you start, and also you start comparing yourself to the right group rather than comparing it to some group which is totally irrelevant. That is social creativity. Because when people ask you, why are you in that, you have answers to tell them that this is why I'm in that. And you also contribute, and if you see that there are certain gaps, you contribute in making that thing happen. Because personal responsibility, remember, the first day I talked about non-conformity, I also talked about personal responsibility, which is a part of being self-reliant. So third thing is social competition. In group, members can attempt to enhance the group status by collectively working to improve their situation. Very true, because though you're an individual in the group, you're working together to improve the situation. Every place, every group, wherever you join, there will be gaps. It has to be there because it is not going to be perfect. So in this case, the in-group competes directly with an out-group with the objective of reversing the group social positions on one or more dimensions. So these are like a little, I'm sure you would have got the essence of it. Social identity is important. It is important for one to become self-reliant, very much, because joining various member groups, like and joining communities, like some of you are part of my community already, and it's going to grow like whatever, fivefold, sixfold. There'll be a lot of more energy that is it'll develop and create. But what I'm saying is, when you join groups and become members of it, it also helps increase your status and your self-image, your self-esteem. And under self-esteem is self-acceptance, self-identity, self-confidence, and we can keep talking about all the S's, right? Self-trust, right? Self-respect. And you may not conform with what other people are doing. So non-conformity and joining groups is definitely a more thriving society, right? So now let me get to Ralph's quote, which is, Harmony of aim, not identification, identity of conclusion is the secret of sympathetic life. So whichever group that you join, aim for harmony rather than exclusion, right? Or you conclude saying this is how it is and it is not good, and then they probably would not contribute to the group. So the secret of sympathetic life is that. So affirmation that which we'll do when I go 3, 2, 1 is I'm never really alone as I'm one with the whole, which is definitely true. Which is one of my values is that you need to tune into abundance to get all your answers. So I'm never alone as I'm one with the whole. That's one. We'll say that. And the assignment is join a group and see what it does to you. Learn about yourself in the process. This is more about self-discovery rather than, okay, should I join that group or not? Joining the group is going to help you discover yourself more than anything else and help you sort of, maneuver yourself. Join me in my level 3. You are anyway going to be getting level 2 and 1 free. I'll also help you with various interventions which will help you sort of understand yourself even more, to deal with yourself as a leader, with teams, with your bosses, and compatibility kind of aspect of it. So that's also, you'll be a part of a larger community, which will give the energy for you to take up accountability partners and implement behavior. So let's go 3, 2, 1 and do the affirmations. And you can either unmute or you can even type it in the comments there of what the affirmation, whatever affirmations that I'm asking you to do. Let's go. If you're ready, let's go 3, 2, 1. Okay. So here I go. So unmute and we can go together with this 3, 2, 1. So let's go. I'm never really alone as I'm one with the whole. Let's go with this affirmation. You can also type it in the comments box, but I would like you to say it aloud. So 3, 2, 1. There you go, 3 times.
I am never really alone as I am one with the whole.
Nice. So I'm going to go another time and 2 more times, right? 3, 2, 1.
I am never really alone as I am one with the whole.
Nice. Last time, and I request everyone to join. 3, 2, 1.
I am never really alone as I am one with the whole.
With the whole. Wonderful. Please look at this assignment also. Type it in the comments box. Post you see this video and type the assignment, type the affirmation, get all the affirmations together, start implementing behavior. Join me on the one-to-one coaching journey for you to understand yourself further, and see you tomorrow for day 19. Oh, this is not day 19, by the way. That's a mistake there. Tomorrow is day 19 for social desirable. It's called social desirability bias. Yes, desirability bias, which I'm going to be taking up tomorrow. And I will be announcing 20th. So tomorrow, 20th and 21st, I'll be taking 21st. I will be taking the session at 5 p.m. 20th, I plan to take it slightly earlier as I'm traveling, and we'll meet accordingly. Yeah, thank you so much. Take care and good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.